Hello, and welcome to our unit on communities and populations. This lesson is 1.1. It's concerning community interactions. My name is Lauren Davis. I'm one of the instructors of this class. So when we're talking about communities, we're talking about the biotic part of an ecosystem. So the biotic is all of the species that are interacting in a certain given area. So communities, we're just talking about living organisms. They could be plants, animals, all sorts of different living organisms that inhabit the area. So that's what we're talking about in a community. The species within a community interact with one another in various different ways. Natural selection occurs in a community. Those species and those members of species that are more adapted and more fit to survive will pass on their genetic traits onto the next generation, and those less adapted to that certain area will be preyed on and not be able to pass their genetics to the next generation. Okay, so natural selection is an important part in communities. The three interactions that we're going to talk about are predation, competition, and symbiosis. So predation is just simply the predator-prey relationship. Okay, within a community, there are some organisms that prey on other organisms, and those species are dependent on one another in a community. So some of the predators may, like this tiger that you see in the picture here, prey on the antelope, and they have a predator-prey relationship. There are certain species within the community that are called keystone species. These species are important because they will tell you about the health of the community. In the reading, it talks about sea stars being a keystone species in a reef environment where they are dependent on keeping the population of certain species of shellfish down. All species in a community are adapted to survive in that community in various ways. Whether they're a predator or a prey, the adaptations will help them survive in that community. So competition is another way that organisms interact with one another. There are two main types of competition within a community. One is called intraspecific competition, and this is where members of the same species will compete with one another for the food sources in that community. Okay, so that's intraspecific, same. That's what intra means. And interspecific competition means that there are members of different species competing for the same resources. Symbiotic relationships are also found in communities. Here are the three main types that we talk about when we talk about symbiotic relationships. The first one is a mutualism. Okay, that's where there are interactions between two different species where both species benefit. You see that the clownfish and the anemone is a popular mutualistic relationship that people talk about. The clownfish has a mucus coating on its outer side, so it can play within the tentacles and live within the tentacles of sea anemones. Even though the sea anemones usually sting fish, the mucus that is on a clownfish, that some of the mucus comes from the anemone itself, will not allow it to get stung, and so it creates its home there in the anemone tentacles, so it benefits. And as it swims in and amongst the tentacles of the sea anemone benefits by having the water be able to circulate through its tentacles, and it's easier to breathe in that way, and that's how it benefits from the relationship as well. So mutualism is where both species benefits. Commensalism is where one species will benefit and the other species is neither helped nor harmed. A lamprey could be an example of this as it swims along with a shark. The shark is neither helped nor harmed from the relationship, but the other fish that swim with the shark benefit from its protection. So commensalism is one species benefits, the other one is neither helped nor harmed. And then the third symbiotic relationship that we talk about is parasitism. This is where one species is helped and the others are harmed. The most common thing to think about here is a mosquito. It preys up on the blood of an organism. Okay, as it stings, it also gives off some of its venom and it causes an itch and a rash, okay, where the organism that it takes the blood from is harmed, okay, the mosquito is helped. So that's what a parasitic relationship would be.